Hello everybody, this is Maree, and we're looking at Grace Community International, looking at the topic or the theme that was done at the Pastoral Conference called Together Towards a Healthy Church 2025. You'll probably notice, if you would look at some of the other videos, that they were filmed at the conference, but I'm filming here from my home office. This is where I actually work from. This is my office. And one of the reasons, we had a technical problem, so we had to redo this video. So it's probably a little bit amateurish because I'm doing it myself and my wife's helping me. But let's get straight into it. What I am looking at, and we'll go to slide 2, and I'd like to ask you to, when you look at the video, watch it with the slides that will be on the website together with the with my talk. And then you can relate to the slides that I'm looking at. So if we go to slide 2, we'll see this topic is the love venue. We know there are different venues. We have the faith venue, the hope venue, and the love venue. This is the love venue that we are looking at specifically. So if we go to slide 3, we can ask the question, which is quite simple, is what is love? Okay? And I mean, there are many ideas and definitions in the world about what is love. But let us really stick to the biblical definition of what is love. And I think John is one of the disciples, one of Jesus' disciples that really looked at and captured the idea of love. And if we go look in 1 John 4, if we go to 1 John 4, verse 7 to 8, 1 John 4, verse 7 to 8, and I'm reading from the NIV version, it says, "Dear friends, let us love one another. Let us love one another, for love comes from God." Love comes from God. That's where love originates, and that's where love comes from. It doesn't come from just within ourselves or something that we arbitrarily pick up. Love comes from God. But one of the most, to me, the best definition of love is 1 John 4. A bit further down where it says, 1 John 4:16 says, God is love. You know, we sometimes look at 1 Corinthians 13, the love chapter, and we'll say, love is kind, love is patient, and we can show those things. But yeah, in John says, not just does God show love, but the fact is that God is love. He is love. He is the essence of love. So God is love. We show love, but God is love. So if we reflect and radiate God, we are actually radiating love. And of course, one of the most famous verses in the Bible, probably the most famous verse in the Bible, is John 3:16 and 17. And we all know John 3:16. It says, "For God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten Son, so whoever believes on him." And verse 17 is also very interesting to me. Verse 17 says, "For he did not come into the world to condemn the world, but to save it." So a central part of love is not judging, not condemning people. I'm not saying that we just turn a blind eye to things that are not right or people doing things wrong. But the point is, the centrality of love is just to show love to people and not to judge people or condemn people. Okay, so in a nutshell, that is what is love. But I want to actually look at the love venue, and I want to shift it slightly towards what should happen in the love venue. What are we supposed to do within the love venue? So if we go to slide number 4, and this is in the little booklet. You can get hold of the little booklet about the different venues, the love venue, hope venue, and faith venue. But in slide number 4, it just gives the key points of the love venue. And the first thing is a healthy church, and we're looking at the love venue. In other words, the overall subject is the healthy church 2025, and then within that the different venues. And the love venue, and number 1 in the love venue is serving and loving the community with a purpose. The second one is identifying a target community, and the third one is align your vision with the church. Those are the 3 principal points in the love venue. Okay, let's go back to the point number 1, serving and loving. So we don't just love, it's easy, but we serve. Serving and loving the community. In other words, this love venue is not just serving and loving the members within the congregation, the church. It's serving and loving the broader and greater community with a purpose. And that word purpose is important. That intentionality is important. The second point is identify a target community. So in the love community, you have to identify a specific target community that you want to target regarding evangelism, regarding outreach, regarding mission work. So identify a target community. The community could be literally the people living around where you have church. It could literally be the next door neighbors from where the church meets. Or it could be a community down the road. Maybe there's a small old age home. It could be an informal settlement where you say, okay, that is our target community, and we are going to go out and serve and love that community with a purpose. It doesn't mean you forgetting about everyone else, but we are concentrating within the love venue, remember? And then align the vision with the church. So your vision for that community or the vision for that venue has to align with the greater church and with the Grace Community International. It has to align with the church of loving each other, not going out to condemn each other, serving each other. That is what it's about. Washing people's feet. I mean, if there's ever a beautiful example of just loving with humility and not condemning, is washing somebody's feet. So those are the broad points, or the summary of the points in the love menu, which you can find in the book. But I specifically want to focus on mission work, on outreach work. That's what I just want to start moving towards that point. And my first thing is, you need to have a mission statement if you want to serve with a purpose. And if we go look at GCR's mission statement, do any of you know what GCR's mission statement is? Grace Community International's mission statement is. If you go onto the website, gcr.org.za, the window that pops open gives you the mission statement. That statement says living and sharing the gospel. Now we can ask, what is the gospel? But that's subject for another day. What is the gospel? But what I like is it doesn't just say sharing the gospel, it's living and sharing something. I don't think you can give something you don't have. So if we don't live the gospel, we don't live Jesus, we don't live Christ and God, how do we share that and how do we give? So in other words, when it comes to church planting or growing your congregation or reaching out and missionary work to the community, the greater community, you have to come up with a mission statement, and that mission statement has to be aligned with the church's statement. And the church's mission statement is living and sharing the gospel. So if we go to slide number 6, in slide number 6, I would like to touch on 2 points that I found very interesting about the love venue, about mission work. The first point is an essential part of the church's mission is church planting. That's an essential part of the church's mission. And we know the well-known scripture, Matthew 28, 16 to 20. And it's often called the Great Commission. And that is an essential part of the church's mission. Not just the church as a whole, but your congregation. That is your mission. Your mission, it's an essential part of the mission of your congregation. Okay, yes, we know part of having a church is where people can come and also learn, be taught, where we can gather together, where you can praise and worship God, where you can literally charge your batteries again. Just take a break from the world and come to the feet of Jesus and charge your batteries. I understand that's an important part of the church congregation, but part of that mission, that can't be all what the church is about. It has to be bigger. And Matthew 28, 16, 20 says it quite categorically. We can't just sit there and be comfortable. We've got to go out and preach the gospel. That's the Great Commission. If you think about it, that's actually what happened to some of the early church, where they were sitting very comfortably in Jerusalem, and suddenly God sent persecution among them to spread them, to get them out, to get them moving. And the second point, and I found this very interesting, a theologian once said, and we're looking at it, the natural process of multiplication. In other words, multiplication is a natural process. And they used these words, and they said, something is amiss when a living organism cannot or will not reproduce. I want to read that again. Something is amiss when a living organism cannot or will not reproduce. You think about it. You plant a tree, and the tree is growing healthy. it produces fruit and produces seed, and that seed is multiplication. That seed germinates and more trees come. Or you've got some healthy animals on your farm, and they reproduce and multiply. And that is the same when it comes to the church. It comes to a church congregation. That's what they say, that multiplication is a natural process. And if your congregation doesn't have that, or we as a church, let's look at Grace Community International as a church. If we're just sitting there all comfortable, looking after ourselves, and we're not multiplying and growing, then something is not right. We're not a healthy church. A healthy plant, for example, doesn't produce fruit, doesn't produce seed. It just sits there sometimes and eventually dies. So it's part of the natural process, multiplication. And that's what we're looking at in the love venue. Multiplication, we're looking at mission work, looking at outreach. So I want to go to slide 6 and specifically mention church planting. And what is church planting? What is a definition of church planting? And we can look at it as church planting is the process of members, note, members, not just the pastor. Church planting is the process of members of Christ's church intentionally, there's that word, intentionally entering into specific communities, social networks, or geographical locations with varying organizational structures for the purpose of sharing the gospel of Jesus, making disciples, and creating indigenous congregations comprised of new believers. Okay, that's a big definition, but you can find it on the PowerPoint presentation on slide number 6. Church planting is the process of members of Christ's church intentionally entering into specific communities. I like the word intentional. It's not just, what shall we do this week? I don't know, let's maybe go visit some people. It's an intentional thing. It's saying, okay, this is our purpose for being. This is what we want to do. This is the community we want to serve. Yes, we're serving our own people. But the point of serving your own members is to teach them, to equip them, enable them to go out and make new disciples. Isn't that what Jesus did? He started his small community, 12 disciples. He taught them, but he eventually said to them, okay, now you need to go out and multiply. You need to go out and spread the gospel. You need to go out and plant churches and communities. There was an intention. That, to me, is the core of church planting or mission work or outreach. Now, if we go to slide 7, is church planting. What do you then need to do? So, okay, we want to, say, plant a church. Let's say your congregation, whether you're Solid Rock or whether you're Radial or whether you're Lingalonga or Cape Town North, you say, okay, we would like to plant a church. Where do you start? What do you do? Well, one of the things you need to do is you need to create a mission statement. And I think I've already mentioned it. A mission statement that is linked to the church's basic mission statement of living and sharing the gospel. And that mission statement has to have intention. It must be measurable. It mustn't just be, we want to go out and preach the gospel. So, okay, but where? Remember, this is targeting a specific group. So we would like to help the local community that is right around our congregation, or a formal, informal settlement down the road. That's the first thing. So the second thing is then you have to have a focus group, and that's basically what I've said. You have to have a mission statement, you have to have a focus group, and then you have to have a launch team. Okay? Now the mission statement we've already discussed, but the focus group, as I say, is specific focus groups. So, okay, this group, like at Lingalonga, we're trying to focus on a community that's just across the road from us. It's a bit of an informal settlement, poor community called Tsakani. So our focus group is, okay, we're going to focus on them. This is our mission, and our mission statement is we're going to go help them. We're going to focus on that group. Then you have to have a launch team. And part of the launch team is the group that's, okay, what do we need to get done? So you would have your pastor. You would have somebody in there that specifically looks at marketing. And you'd have somebody that in there that might be in charge of facilitating the greeting. Somebody in charge of facilitating praise and worship. That's what I mean by launched team. Then what we'll do is we'll start look at different models, the different models that different churches used. And that also gives us an idea. These are some big churches that have been very successful in the Love venue, specifically in mission work, specifically in planting of churches. And we'll look at that over the next few minutes. Okay, so now what we're going to look at is some models that different churches use in their mission work, in their outreach work, in their church planting work, and gives us some ideas. And these churches have been very successful in growing churches and planting churches. So something they're doing is working. So if we go to slide number 8, the first model is known as the calendar model. And it actually speaks for itself. It's a lot of churches do this already, and it's a good idea. They have a calendar. In other words, they'll say, okay, on Saturday we have church, or on Sunday we have church, on Wednesday we have a Bible study, on Thursday we have women's ministry, on Tuesday we have specifically outreach to the elderly community. So that's called the calendar model. So they know Wednesday night is Bible study, and that's what we're doing. Or Thursday night is small groups. Or Friday evening is a youth ministry, where the youth get together and ministry. That's called the calendar model. That's a very basic model that all of us should be implementing in our congregations and our church. Now, if I go to slide number 9, Willow Creek has a model. Willow Creek is a massive church in America, and they are very good at planting churches. But I'm specifically here looking at the models they use. It gives us ideas for our congregations to say, okay, we want to now plant a church in the local. We've got our focus group, we've got our mission statement, and we want to plant a church there, or we want to grow our own congregation. If we look at Willow Creek model, Willow Creek, their model, they start off by step 1 is relationships. And that's so obvious in a way. Their first step is to build a relationship. Isn't that what also God is about, building relationships with each other? People often don't care what you know till they know you care. So the first point is relationship. The second step is verbal witness. And I feel that our church, Grace Community International, can really do more verbal witnessing. We've been a bit weak in that. And a verbal witness is basically giving a testimony. And you know how powerful it can be. Somebody, maybe once a month or once every week, in your congregation, you can say to somebody, is anybody here would like to give a 2-minute or 5-minute testimony about their week? And somebody just comes up and gives us testimony. Or the testimony of how they came to Christ. Those testimonies are very powerful. It also empowers the person, also gets the person to understand, I can stand up here and talk, and I feel comfortable. I don't have to know the Hebrew and the Greek, and I don't have to know everything in the Bible, but no one can argue with your own personal testimony. That's what it's about. The step 3 is seeker service. They then start a seeker service. And a seeker service is just inviting people. It's a very basic church service, and you're inviting people into an environment where they feel comfortable. The fourth one is new communities. Start new communities. Step 5 is small groups. They start small groups. Small groups, cell groups. Those groups are very important, because that's often where you learn, where you teach. That small group can be like a Bible study. It could be even just a group of men or a group of women getting together once a week, or once every second week in small groups. And those small groups become powerful. Within that group, you build relationships, you learn, and you're also discipling and teaching those people then to go out and to form new small groups. The next step is networking. And step 7 is what they call good sense. And they spell sense with the S with a dollar sign. Good sense. In other words, part of what they are saying, part of it is stewardship, ownership. So, and stewardship, just remember, it's not just about giving money, but that's an important part of it. But stewardship is about ownership, about owning, saying this little church, this congregation is ours. That is Willow Creek's model. If we go to the next slide, slide 10, now Saddleback. Saddleback was also a very big church. They have various big churches going around. We're not looking at doctrine. What I'm looking specifically at is the models they use. Saddleback have a model with 5 points. The first is belong, then it's grow, then it's serve, then it's share, then it's worship. Okay? So the first step is the same as the previous one, relationship. To belong. In other words, you build relationships, you build trust, and people then see, I belong to this community. This is my church. They must have a sense of belonging, that they can come to that church or that congregation and say, you know what, I belong. And that's the love venue. I belong here. I have a sense of this is my home. The second point is to grow. You see, you can't just come there and sit every week and say, okay, this is great, I belong. You have to grow, and that growth is maturity. Then the third point is they have to start serving, and that is ministry. The fourth point is to share. That's when you start going out and saying, share the gospel, share your experience, share your testimony. And the fourth is worshipping. The fifth point, is worshipping. That's magnification. And then you go back to that circle of starting a new church or a new congregation or a new cell group, where people then again start to say, this is where I belong, this is where I can grow, this is where I can serve, this is where I can share, and this is where I can worship. That's the Saddleback model. Then we can look at Grace Community International's model. And slide number 11 shows a picture of it. And in the center it says, making disciples with Jesus. Doing it with Jesus, not our own work we are doing. We are working with Jesus, with God, with the Holy Spirit. Okay? Making disciples. And that's what Jesus said. Go out, make disciples. And on the outside we'll have seek, nurture, equip, and multiply. Okay, but I will go to slide number 12. Because slide number 12, we can look better at Grace Community International's model. And the first point, there's four points on Grace Community International's model. Okay, the first one is to seek. Same as some of the others. Second is to nurture. The third is to equip. The fourth is to multiply. So let's go back. The first one, to seek, is to connect, to form relationships, to trust. I can tell you now, if you go into a community, and it happened with us when we went to Tsakani, the first time you go into a community and you say, hello, we're from GCR, Red Hill, or wherever, and we want to come talk to your people. One of the first things they're going to think in their mind is, what are these people doing here? Are they after our money? Why they come here? We've never seen them before. And it's only after you start coming a few times and start talking to them and just saying, how can we help you? They'll suddenly start to connect, and they'll suddenly see, okay, they want to form a relation, friendships. They'll suddenly see that they can trust you. Trust is critical. And then after that, you have to nurture the people and grow them. I mean, Paul did that. The Apostle Paul, when he formed a new church, he would form a launch group. Remember, people that said, okay, you look after the church, and he would get feedback from them. But he had somebody there to nurture and grow them. And then you've got to equip them. At some stage, we've got to equip the members by teaching them properly, equip them that they've got the tools to go out and do missionary work and outreach. And then we have to multiply. Multiply is becoming a mentor, creating new ministries, creating new churches. That is the Grace Community International model. And I think it's quite a good model. And you'll see it's very similar to some of the other models. It's seeking, it's nurturing, and then it's growing and equipping, and then multiply. If we go to the next slide, and that is slide number 13, I want to give you all some homework. So we've been looking just very quickly at the love venue, and part of that love, what I try to focus on the love venue was outreach, church planting, mission work. So I want to give you some homework to each one of your congregations. I've also sent out some information, some basic information to everybody, or the pastors, and I can ask that it also get loaded onto the website, that you can also download it. Just some information that you can use. But here's the homework. The first thing is to speak to your congregation. As a pastor, as an elder, as a leader, speak to your congregation. Say, okay, we would like to do some outreach, some mission work. What do you guys think? What do you people think? Who can we target? Target a focus group. So maybe say, okay, let's just look at the people right around us. Speak to them. Then number 2 is draw up a mission statement that is in line with the church. So your mission statement, as we've already said, your mission statement must be specific, it must have a purpose. And it's speaking specifically to your focus group. The third, maybe we could have turned it around, the third is to determine your focus group. So your mission statement and determine your focus group can often work together. Okay? 4, set up a plan and put it into action. It's great to have plans, But if they're not put into action, nothing's going to happen. Set up a plan and put it into action. And point number 5, and remember this is part of the homework. Speak to your congregation, set up a purpose-specific mission statement, determine your focus group, set up a plan. How are you going to minister? Who is going to be involved? Who is going to do the greeting once you form a little church or whatever? Or have a seekers meeting. Say, okay, we're going to invite them to our church once a month. We're going to go out to the community and say, once a month, invite them there, have a small lunch afterwards, or tea or coffee. But point number 5, and this was part of your homework, is go knock on doors. Okay, now I'll ask some of the people at the conference, put up your hand, who's going to go knock on doors? Most of them said they would, one or two said no, they don't want. I've knocked on a door before, and it's not the easiest thing to do, because I'm not like that type of person. I don't really want to go knock on a door. But what I mean by go knocking on doors is go out there with the outreach and just go and meet people, or do that. Say if your congregation is sitting in the middle of a suburb community, determine, say, okay, next month, people, we're going out as a group, we'll go around to people and just knock on the door and say, hello, my name is Johannes, my name is Jill, my name is Johnny, my name is Susan. We have a church here, we just want to say hello, that's all. And maybe can we pray for you or something? You just keep it simple, but it's intentional. It's putting something into action, and you'll be surprised once you start doing these things. Just suddenly, it's like, yeah, it actually becomes quite enjoyable, and you'll see the fruits of it. You'll see the fruits of it. Go knock on doors, but do it intentionally with a proper focus and mission. So it's not just random. Don't just think, okay, to do it. Just do it structured. And remember, one of the models spoke to the fact that you've got to have that continuity. So don't just do it once, and then for the next 6 months or next year, they'll never see you again. That doesn't help. Do it maybe once a month. And slowly, the people get to know you, they get to see, they get to trust you, and they see this person doesn't have alternative motives. This person's actually here because they have love. They want to show love. They have interest. When I've asked them previously, I'm struggling, I can't find work, please pray for me. Do that, and then go back to them and say, we prayed for you, have you found work, can we keep on praying for you? And you'll be surprised. You start to build friendships. At the end of the day, it's about relationships, about belonging, about growing, it's about being together, about trust. That's what builds churches and communities and congregations. So go knock on doors. So that is the end of my short presentation, which links into the greater theme of Together Towards a Healthy Church 2025. And the thing is, we have different venues. We have the love venue, the faith venue, the hope venue. And each one of those venues have to be healthy within themselves for the church to grow, to multiply. And of course, let us never forget, we don't do this alone. Obviously, it's with God's guidance, with the grace of God, with Jesus and with the Holy Spirit leading us. It's not our work. It's not what we do. We just have the privilege of sharing in what Christ and the Holy Spirit already do. So have a great day, and God bless.